Hi, I'm John Patrick Green. I am the creator of the Investigator series, and this year's book for World Book Day 2024, Investigators High-Rise Hijinks. If you've read some of the earlier books, I've got the first book and the most recent book in the series here. And, when people ask me, why do I make books? Really, it comes down to I've always had a passion for storytelling ever since I was a little kid, and I always liked drawing. And I make comics because it's a combination of those things. It's using, words and story and pictures to tell stories, and that's where my passion for creating comes from. I'm here to tell you about my tips for reading, and I always prefer reading graphic novels and comic books because it's what I loved so much as a child, and it's what really keeps my enthusiasm for reading going. And one of my favorite things to do when reading is to get together with a friend who is also interested in reading a specific book that I want to read, and you each get a copy of the book, and you go hang out together on a couch in a room or something, and you read it. More or less in silence, maybe with some tea or some snacks. And every so often, every few chapters, you can stop and you can talk about what you read. And I always find that really keeps my enthusiasm for the book going, and it brings the whole reading experience to a new level. That's one of my favorite ways for enjoying a book. I'm here to tell you about where my favorite place to read is. And this isn't an original answer, but my favorite place to read is probably my couch, because it's comfortable. I'm surrounded by all my earthly possessions, as well as usually a cup of coffee or tea and some snacks and complete silence. That's just the way I roll when I'm reading. So that's me. Thanks. Normally when I'm reading, a lot of times I'm reading other graphic novels and kids' books by fellow creators, because it's always good to see what else is out there that's similar to things that I do, or what other people might like that are similar to things that I do. So that's usually what I'm reading a lot of times. But I also really love science fiction prose books and some classic literature, Jane Austen. But one of the things that I want to read more of this year, follow me on this adventure, is the back of cereal boxes. Because as a kid, one of my favorite things to do, and in many ways how I learned to read, was reading the back of cereal boxes, like, the sugary kind that have like the cartoon mascots and stuff, really the boxes, kinds of cereals that your parents very rarely might get you, or maybe you'll have when you go over to a friend's house. And the backs of those boxes always have like puzzles and games and jokes and stuff like that. And now that I'm adult, I can eat that cereal whenever I want. So I'm really looking forward to being able to do that more, because it just brings back these childhood memories. So that's the kind of reading that's been on my mind lately.
Hi, I'm John Patrick Green. I am the creator of Investigators High-Rise Hijinks, one of this year's World Book Day 2024 books. I'm here to tell you about a book that I read recently. This one is a picture book called Julia's House Goes Home. It is the final entry in the Julia's House series of picture books written and illustrated by Ben Hatke. I have the first book right here. This is where the story began, in Julia's House for Lost Creatures. I read the second and third one on my computer. And the third one concludes the story about monsters and creatures who are basically all looking for a place to belong, and that is in Julia's house. But of course, the story can't be that simple. They have lots of adventures and trials and tribulations, as well as trolls and tribulations to contend with. And as I said, it's all about found family and finding a place where you feel like you truly belong and can call home. It's beautifully illustrated in like watercolors, and it features lots of amazing and amusing creatures and animals and monsters. And the third book came out recently, Julia's House Goes Home. It finishes off the entire story to a very delightful conclusion, and so if you have a chance, you should check it out.
This one is called, the first book is called Star the Elephant. This is part of the Surviving the Wild series by Remy Lai. The second book is Rainbow the Koala. And these are early reader graphic novels that are inspired by true stories about animals out in the wild. And they're very, very charming, and they're very, very cute. They've got a wonderful illustrated style, and they're for younger readers. So, they're really good for read-alongs that parents can read with their child as they are learning. They're also just fascinating stories about animals and the adventures that they went on in encountering various types of humans, some good and some bad, because that's what happens in the real world. But I really, really like these, and I think you should check them out. And this one is called Barb the Last Berserker. Now, you're actually not going to be able to find it called Barb the Last Berserker, because I believe overseas, I'm from America, I believe over where you are, it's called Barb the Brave. But this book is about this girl right here named Barb, and she is like a warrior character, berserker or barbarian. She's this warrior, and basically the story is like a sword and sorcery type of fun adventure where Barb, this very strong and charming as well character, goes on this adventure, and she meets a lot of interesting creatures and some monsters. And it turns out some monsters aren't necessarily all bad and all that scary, despite how big they seem. But this one is a lot of fun. The art is wonderful. It is by this duo called Dan and Jason. They are a writing and illustrating team, so they actually take turns coming up with the story and coming up with the pictures. It's a fascinating read that I think you will all enjoy. The book that I read recently that I really enjoyed is Doomsday Camp. And this is a graphic novel series about a kid named Doom who lives in basically the apocalypse or post-apocalypse, where he's a little kid and he's relatively normal, but all the other kids are kind of mutated from all the radiation and weird side effects of living in a post-apocalyptic world. It sounds very depressing, but actually it's a lot of fun. There are a lot of monsters and weird characters and stuff. And so Doom, he basically starts up this camp to make friends with all these bizarre creatures, and they go on adventures, and they have to, defend their lifestyle, where they live, their home, from other dangers and monsters and stuff that are out there. And this one is a graphic novel series called Mayor Goodboy. It is by Dave Scheid and Miranda Harmon, and this is about a dog that got elected to be mayor of a town. It's actually inspired by a true story, because America is weird. But this is a fictional story about this dog trying to be mayor of a town. He basically hires kids as his staff to help this run this town. And of course, there are people that don't want a dog to be mayor, such as like a dog catcher and other nefarious villains. It's a lot of fun, and I definitely think you should check it out. Tuesday by David Wiesner. And the thing that I love about this book is it's a picture book. It's a children's book, and there's no words. The entire story is told by pictures. It's not quite a comic book. It's a little bit like a comic book because, you need all the images to tell the story. And I discovered this book when I was relatively young. I was still in school, and I just was fascinated by how the story was told purely in images. And the story itself, it's called Tuesday. It's a very bizarre Tuesday. It's a Tuesday in which suddenly frogs started being able to fly, essentially. And so it takes place over the course of a night where suddenly just massive amounts of frogs just start flying through a town and a city and all that. And it's beautifully illustrated, and it's an absolute delight. And I always think about this book all the time.